Hey, everybody. Welcome here to Pop Culture Philosophers. I am Rockin Robbie Billups. Right next to me, I have Bullseye Bob from Everything Comics.
How's it going, man?
It's going swell. And to introduce Bob, I want to say, quit talking about comic books or I'll kill you. The song gets stuck in my head.
Yeah, once you get started on that one, you can't let it go.
God. So it says, I don't care if the Hulk can defeat the what?
The Man of Steel.
The Man of Steel.
Right.
Which ties into your thumbnail. So
right. And
yeah.
I'll rearrange your face if if you continue to debate whether Wolverine's claws can pierce Steve Rogers' shield. That's what the next line is.
I like it. We got some people popping up into the chat, and once you pop in, feel free to join the conversation. We have no plan tonight, except that we are doing a first five. That's right, everybody.
Yes.
Whenever I have Bueller or Bob in here, we got to do a first five.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, which I totally think you guys stole that from my first six, final nine that I do on Sunday nights. But
oh, really?
just a joke. I stole it from y'all, but I changed it. See, so I'm not stealing it.
There you go. That's not a problem, man.
but Bueller gave me full reign, and he said I can do a first five and final five whenever I want. So
there you go.
Hey, Rylan, speaking of first five, there's the first five right there. Thank you, Rylan. Appreciate that. $5 closer to the Joker van. We're going to get a Joker van Toy Biz from the early 90s. Do you remember that one, Bob?
Yes, I absolutely do. That's an awesome piece.
Yeah, I'm excited to get it again. And there's a Punisher van as well. It's the exact same toy. It's just painted black and blue instead of purple and green, right?
Interesting.
The Joker van's like $80. The Punisher van's like $600. I think I'm going to buy two Joker vans and get somebody to paint it black.
Yeah, there you go. Wow. I guess because I didn't even know they had a Punisher van, so I guess it's the more rare of the two. That's probably why it's more expensive.
Yeah, I remember seeing it all the time, but when I was a kid, I bought the Joker one. I didn't buy the Punisher one. I was more of a Joker guy, and probably still am. But that Punisher van, if only, I wonder if they did a Newman figure from Jurassic Park. If so, I would put him in there, and he'd be microchip.
That would be awesome, man. That would be awesome.
That's what I would do. So tonight we're going to be talking about comic books, movies, television, pop culture, all that stuff. If you've got a question, bring it in. I see a lot more people in here, so thank you for joining us. Robbie and Bob are very excited to bring you our first five. Bob, I put together my first five with you in mind.
Oh, thanks, man.
So this is a Daredevil number 8.
Oh, nice.
Volume 2.
Joe Quesada.
What a great cover, right?
Yeah, it is.
You know, I used to get really annoyed with Spawn's crazy ass cape, but I love stuff like this. Like that makes no sense. All this,
nope.
But that image is striking, is powerful. I always love a good Daredevil Spider-Man team up.
Yep.
And that's the end of the Kevin Smith run.
Yep, that's
the initial run.
A great one.
I love this one when I was a kid. This was probably my first Daredevil comic I ever read.
Such a great one.
Love the foil cover there.
Oh yeah, all 5 of those covers are great.
This one's more recent. It's a Marvel Knights number 5 from the recent 20th anniversary, and it's a Black Panther versus Daredevil.
Yeah.
And it's got the Stan Lee tribute.
Yes.
So here's one that's really special. This is Daredevil Bullseye number 1.
Yes.
The Target.
The series that was never finished, but oh man, wow, I love that book.
I'm still waiting. Waiting
too.
I think Kevin Smith said that we're never going to finish that.
Yeah.
Never. And I know we're always talking about our favorite covers and favorites this and that. And one of my favorite Daredevil covers ever is issue number 11 from volume 2 right there.
Oh man, awesome stuff. Is that the first appearance of Echo?
It's not, because she first appeared in 9, right?
In 9, that's right.
Yeah. But this cover, it's Joe Quesada and David Mack doing the coloring.
Yeah.
I love the little cherub angels and just a dynamic, cool pose. And so that's my first 5 in honor of you, Bullseye Bob.
Well, I thank you very much. I appreciate that, Robbie. And so my first 5 is based on my new video that I'm doing. I actually realized that I'm a huge Bullseye fan, you know that. And I realized that I had probably more Bullseye comic book covers than I ever realized. As I was going through my collection, I actually just started putting them all together. So I got a video that's going to highlight Bullseye and all the covers that I actually have in my collection. And so here's some of my favorites. I forget the guy who does these, but the action figure covers. I know he was more famous for doing the Star Wars stuff, but when I saw that one when it came out, I had to get it for sure. And then here's the Olivetti cover from the Thunderbolts, which I always love that cover.
Like that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's one where Bullseye is going to town on Daredevil, which is issue number 290.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's back.
He's back. And then I got a Deodato cover. I love this Bullseye number 1.
Oh yeah.
And then one of the prizes in my collection is also Bullseye number 1, but it's the 1 in 50 Sienkiewicz cover.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, where he does the playing card there, and that's one I can't wait to stand in front of Bill himself and have him sign it. But that's one that's definitely on the video. And I got a bunch of other ones that I just love, but I figured I'd bring those tonight for my first 5, my friend.
I appreciate that, and I'm looking forward to that video now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had a lot more than I realized as I was going through my collection. I had a bunch of the Gambit covers, a bunch of Punisher covers, Moon Knight, Old Man Logan. There's a bunch of great covers with him, and I thought, man, I'll just do a video with those, man. That sounds cool to me.
That is super cool. I like that. We got a lot more people in here. What's up, Fable? What's up, John, Lewis, William, Cags, Kirby, God Tank, Dora, Eric, Herminio.
How's it going, everybody?
Johnny. Damn, we got a lot of people in here.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That Daredevil cover looks with the cherubs looks like an homage to Elektra Assassin issue 4. Yeah, actually.
That's a great pull.
Yeah. And Sam, what's up, buddy?
Sam Fett, what's up, man?
PCP forever. I like that. So, Bob, I know that you're still working and you're doing a lot of work from home, right?
Yeah, absolutely. My company, we're one of the few that has been deemed essential because it's transportation. And that's one of the things that actually President Trump deemed above all the medical. If the supply lines don't keep going, then we don't have any medical. And so our company is definitely fortunate to keep going. And of course, because of the social distancing and because of the great technology that we have, all of us are working from home. And it's kind of trying at times because it just seems like one day melds into another. Yeah, I mean, doing a lot of working from home. I try to get on at 5 a.m, so I'm done at like 2 p.m, which is kind of cool.
Oh, nice.
It's definitely a weird time, man. It really is.
It's super weird. It's unprecedented. It's so weird, and it's I think it's affecting me mentally in ways that I haven't quite figured out yet.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just it's a hard thing to process.
It sure is. I mean, for myself, I realize that it's harder for me to get motivated to do things because there's really nothing to do, and so it's, I mean, I'm catching up on a lot of reading, a lot of movie watching and all that good stuff. But
yeah, I was about to ask if you've been working from home, presumably in your pajamas, because that's what I would do. I'm always in pajamas if I'm at home.
That's one of my favorite things. And so, yeah, I mean, I got dressed just for the show, buddy.
Oh, that's awesome. I appreciate that. So like, what have you been reading? Because I know that you've been catching up on some things. I noticed that you finally read the Ultimate Daredevil Elektra stuff.
Yeah, that was kind of a cool story, different take. I was pleasantly surprised by it. I didn't get to read a lot of the Ultimate stuff, and so I've been kind of dipping my toe in, everywhere that I can. I really enjoyed the Ultimate Spider-Man stuff. Yeah. I've not gotten all the way through that series. I'm still leading up to the death of Peter Parker. But some of the stuff that came out of that Ultimates era was pretty dang good. And so this is my first time reading the Daredevil Elektra Ultimate story. I liked it. Another Daredevil story that I read was the darn it, gosh, I just read it. Maybe it was the it was done by Andy Diggle. It was the one that
Reborn.
What's that?
Reborn.
Reborn. There we go. And it was a good story, but it made me realize just how out of touch Andy Diggle really was with the Daredevil character. And I think I finally put my finger on it, that was my problem with his writing of the series. He's a good writer, but I just don't think that he delved into caring about Matt enough for him to really do the character justice. And so it was kind of a weird read.
Yeah, the Diggle run is one I don't really like. That's basically the Shadowland run, you know?
Yeah.
And the thing I liked about Reborn was that it put Matt back on the path where then Mark Waid can come in and do this very 60s retro positive poppy Daredevil run.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a great way to turn away from what Andy Diggle did and even not repeat what Brubaker and Bendis had already done.
What pretty much everybody had done, after Frank Miller.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So it was nice to get back to that kind of the more so the roots of the character, right? And I think Daredevil is one of those characters that has benefited from Frank Miller's run because that really redefined that character. But there are elements of that before. I mean, he wasn't just pulling that stuff straight out of nowhere, right?
Right.
But the early days when he was much more like, he was snappy, he was funny, he was much more like a 60s Marvel character back then.
Absolutely.
Goofy, one-liners. That's why those ridiculous villains, that's why they exist, is because it's from that time. Right?
Absolutely.
Stiltman. Everybody gives Stiltman a hard time, but don't forget about Paste Pot Pete. No comic book from the 60s is again immune to that.
No, that's for sure.
I do really like the Greg Rucka stuff though that he did with the Ultimate ones because he only did the 2 series. But I liked it. I liked it a lot. And I remember the first time Ultimate Daredevil showed up. He showed up. Have you read that Ultimate Marvel Team Up? There were 3 issues of Ultimate Marvel Team Up. There were Spider-Man, Daredevil, and Punisher. Did you read those?
Read them yet.
Written by Bendis with artwork by Bill Sienkiewicz.
Really?
And they're really good. Like Punisher's in prison. And so he kills a guy with a spoon and then he gets put. I mean, it's a really good 3-issue arc. It's really good. I think it's probably 6, 7, and 8, but it's around there. But there were 3 issues. They were amazing. They were really
check it out. Absolutely. I missed the good old days with Marvel Team Up, and if you get that pair going on, Sienkiewicz and Bendis, I'm on board. So I'll definitely check those out.
Ultimate Marvel Team Up was it's kind of an undervalued book now, but at the time, the Ultimate books were kind of hitting their stride. They had Spider-Man, they had X-Men, they were strong, so they did Ultimate Marvel Team Up, in which Bendis did. Each story had a different artist, and they were some of the best artists out there. There's Mike Allred, Bill Sienkiewicz, Jim Mahfood, Phil Hester, Matt Wagner, and he was able to introduce some characters for the first time in that book, like Hulk and Iron Man, and some of the things didn't really iron itself out because then other actual Ultimate versions of those characters appeared, and they were slightly different. But it was a really cool experiment, and Terry Moore did the Black Widow one. It was really cool, and every artist was perfectly picked for the book they were doing. And Sienkiewicz on that Punisher and Daredevil one it was just amazing. And it was a 3-issue story, and that was super, super fun.
I'll have to check and see if they got that on the Marvel Unlimited app. That's where I'm getting most of my Marvel stuff right now.
Oh, they might. They probably surely they probably have all that Ultimate stuff on there, right?
They got a great. They have a whole bunch of it. I don't know if it's all of it. I found some holes in some runs, but most of that stuff is out there.
Heck yeah, the Ultimates were a good time. I felt a very vibrant, fresh injection of energy into the industry in the early 2000s. It got really exciting. It got very cinematic. You had books like Authority that led into the Ultimates, and you had Ultimate Spider-Man going on, and Joe Quesada was taking over Marvel, and it was just a good time. And DC was still just doing strong stuff. DC, everybody talks crap about 90s comics, but there's a lot of solid 90s comics, right?
Yeah, there are.
Sandman's a 90s comic. Preacher's a 90s comic. Astro City is a 90s comic. Starman. Those are fantastic runs. that are like monumental now.
Absolutely. But of course they weren't talked about at the time because all the rock stars were being talked about. And of course that's what killed everything.
I assume you're talking about like the Image cats, right?
Yeah, of course. But I mean,
Yeah.
just before, they were Image, they were all rock stars in their own right over at Marvel. And
Absolutely.
But there were, and then, Batman was running really strong at the time as well. And, but, there was a lot of stuff that came out back then that, you can study. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't all bad. I mean, there's some nostalgic stuff inside of there that I'll always go back to and read. But it was the time of big pouches, big guns, and everything had to be gravitas,
Yeah. I used to always hate Spawn, and recently I've been getting into a Spawn read. And I'm 30 issues through it, and I'm just loving it because I'm coming at it now with the perspective that I'm a Spawn fan.
Right? There you go.
So I'm not looking at what I don't like about it. I'm looking at what I like about it. And I'm having a lot of fun. Issue 30 actually took place in Alabama. And like most comic books I've ever read that take place in Alabama involve the Ku Klux Klan.
Right.
But, you take what you can get, I guess. I don't know.
Absolutely. I was thinking about you the other night, speaking about Alabama. Do you have, what do they call it? Amazon Prime. Do you have that?
I do.
Have you watched Hunters?
No, that's the Al Pacino show?
Yeah.
No, I haven't. I've heard about it. People recommend it to me.
Yeah, bro, you got to check it out. There's you just think of Nazi hunters, but with comic book vigilanteism behind it. It's just a lot of fun.
Okay.
It's definitely, whoever wrote it definitely had comic books in mind, because there's the thread of comic books just through the whole thing. They talk about them, they reference them, and the characters that they come up with. I mean, these are all comic book characters. So you got Nazi hunters that are basically, they're vigilantes out of the comic books. It's awesome stuff. But they got some crap that goes down in Huntsville, Alabama, bro. And I thought, Robbie's got to see this, man.
Yeah, that's where I live.
Exactly.
Were they after Von Braun or something?
Yeah, that was pretty much, man, something like that. Exactly.
Yeah, everything here is named after Von Braun. Our Coliseum, where we have the hockey games and the concerts and everything, is the Von Braun Center. And we got the Redstone Arsenal here and the Marshall Space Flight Center. So the space race is inherently tied into my town, and it's always been something I've always been attached to. That's why, like, I really like to dive into like conspiracy theories and things like that, just mostly for entertainment's sake, if that makes sense.
Sure.
I don't take much too seriously, but I've always been very against we faked the moon landing thing, because
right.
I'm like, come on, man, I'm from Huntsville. Like I had a poster of the Challenger, growing up and stuff, and it was like never forget and stuff like that, and then that was one of those big moments that happened that kind of shook the nation.
Absolutely.
Not quite like what's going on now, though.
No, that's for sure.
Hey, we got Sleepy Reader 666 in the building.
Hey, what's going on, Damien?
I watched your video the other night where you were rambling about distribution and showing some of your recent pickups, and that was a great video, homie. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I watched that one as well. Definitely a lot of great points in there. I don't know. He brought up the whole bad idea issue and model. What do you think about that, Robbie?
Well, I think it's a bad idea. It doesn't seem very accessible, does it?
No, it doesn't.
It would seem like it's geared mostly towards the spec market.
Right.
I think the spec market, I mean, obviously it's a chunk of the industry, but it comes and goes. It's always there, but it gets bigger and then it shrinks a little bit and it'll get bigger again. It just seems so weird. It seems like most comic book people that I know, whether they're readers, retailers, creators, editors, publishers, it seems like the idea is that the more accessible, the better, Sure. So it seems really weird to limit their comics in such a way. I don't know.
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about it, and I think they're going to shoot themselves in the foot, because when you have guys that are purely spec buyers, most of those guys are not readers. They're buying books basically because they're hot or they're not. And where are they finding out the information that a book is hot? They're finding it out from people who actually read the comics.
Yeah.
And so you got a model that's trying to create a spec market by making comic books less accessible. And, so, I mean, I think the reasoning behind it is that the hunters would go out and hunt these books because they're going to be more scarce, low print run. And my point was that kind of creates a FOMO market, fear of missing out. But as far as the actual speculators, they're not going to know whether these books are hot or not, because most of the readers, I don't think they're going to go for it.
Yeah, without the readers there, you don't really necessarily have that initial hype to build up, right?
Exactly.
And I think that the hunters, the long box warriors, when we go in there and we're like trying to piece together runs and stuff, that's different than trying to hunt for the spec book.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think the Easter egg hunt idea and the comic book hunting idea is different than the people that will seek these out on a spec level. What's going to happen is you're going to have some shops probably sell out, because they're doing it only like 100 shops, right?
Right.
And we didn't sign up for it. I don't think we did. Maybe we did, but I don't think we did. Seems like a crazy idea.
Right.
But a bad idea almost. I think it's an interesting business model if they were going to do like paperback collections and digital. Because then you are separating the spec market from the people that just want to read.
Sure.
Because Damien was saying in his video that Matt Kent's doing one of them. Mm-hmm. I would totally want to read that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know. Yeah. It just seems weird.
It does. I think it's weird as well. I mean, if they were to distribute it to all the comic shops, but in a limited print run, making it available to everybody, I could see maybe something like that going on. But to only put it into 100 shops, I don't know. I right out the get-go, there's something inside of my spirit that says I don't want to support that, so I'm not going to.
Yeah, I don't think it's neat. But the other thing too, it just crossed my mind was that maybe this is all just for the first wave. Mm-hmm. And then they get people like built up on hype, and then maybe people are overpaying for these books, and maybe some shops, will hold on to them and sell them online at a higher price, right? And just build up the hype for them, and then they're like, okay, now we're going to open up to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, if that was their plan, then that's great, but that's not what they're saying. So I mean,
yeah, but even if that's their plan, that's a little shady. That's a little
right.
Yeah, it's a little weird. Hey, Bueller's in the house. Look at that.
Hey, what's going on there, Travis?
You just missed our first 5, buddy. It was all Daredevil books.
Yeah, Daredevil and Bullseye, man.
Yeah, the Matt Kent caught my attention too.
Yeah,
Scarpet says he didn't care for the tone of Hunters. It wanted to be a comic book fun, but it had a very serious flashback to the Holocaust and dance fantasy scenes in it. Was too schizo for me. That sounds way appealing to me. I think Scarpad just sold me harder than you did, Bob.
Oh, okay.
I'll watch that.
There was some definite hardcore flashbacks to the Holocaust. But, you talked about, conspiracy theories as being entertainment, and they took a lot of conspiracy theories and rolled that into what we know as this story. And it was a lot of fun. If you enjoyed The Boys, you'll enjoy the tone of this show.
See, I didn't watch The Boys.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I hate The Boys comics, so I never watched the show.
That's kind of true. I didn't really ever get into The Boys comic, but I loved the show.
I've heard people that also don't like the book, but enjoy the show.
Yeah, for sure.
They say they tone some things down without really toning anything down. So
right.
I don't know. But let's see. What are people talking about down there? Oh, why not? Let's talk. I haven't talked about this yet. John wants to know any thoughts on the video about what Ezra Miller. If nobody's seen it, there's a video. Apparently, I think they said it's from some kind of pub or a brewery or something in Iceland.
In Iceland, yeah.
Yeah, and apparently a group of fans were there and they were kind of being obnoxious, but like there's a video. It's a very brief video. That's the thing too.
Right.
It's a very brief video. You don't know what happened before. You don't know what happens after.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks like Ezra Miller just like grabs this woman by the throat and throws her down on the ground. Like, basically choke slams her. It's a weird one.
When I first saw the video, I thought this is a hoax. It's got to be a hoax because of just what you said. It's very brief, and he does. He goes straight for her throat and throws her down. But I read, I was watching the John Campea show, and he was saying on there that they have actually verified that it is true. He actually did go after that girl. I mean, they basically were taunting him, and he got kicked out of the place along with these people. And while they were outside is where the incident actually happened.
Oh, wow.
And so, I mean, I don't know what that holds for the future of his contract with Warner Brothers, but that doesn't look too good, man.
No, it doesn't. I don't think it's been looking good for his Flash movie anyway. So
Yeah.
it seems like this could be the nail in the coffin.
Yeah. I mean, I really wish they would just move on. I mean, I'm tired of getting teased. I've kind of let go of the fact that there's going to be a Flash movie. As much as I want to have it, I just said, if it comes out, it comes out. I'm tired of waiting for it.
There will be one day. There will.
I sure hope so.
They need to just distance themselves as much as possible from that Justice League movie and all those other films that nobody really liked. They're kind of in a bad situation though, because Wonder Woman was a smash and Aquaman kind of worked too.
It did.
But I'm like, you can still go forward and just make their own movies. And then maybe one day, eventually, if you want to, maybe you could do a Justice League movie. I think that needs to not be the priority though.
No, absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, they shot themselves in the foot from the very beginning. It's funny how much more talk is still going around about the Snyder cut.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I'm actually kind of interested to see it now, just because I know that Darkseid's going to be in it.
I would love to see it. Back in the day when I heard the original ideas, like I was down. And here's the thing. I hate that Justice League film, but I do not hate what Snyder was doing up until that point.
Right.
Because I really, really like BVS. I know not a lot of people do. That's fine. I like Man of Steel. Man of Steel's okay. I hate Kevin Costner in the movie, and I hate that whole tornado scene.
Oh, that's just ridiculous.
That Superman wouldn't do that. Like Superman would save him.
Yeah.
Like it was like it doesn't matter. Superman wouldn't. Anyway,
don't even get me started, man.
Right? Don't get me started. But I love BVS. I mean, it's kind of a deconstruction. It's really a deconstruction of the entire mythos of Batman, Superman. Snyder is obviously heavily influenced by Frank Miller, like heavily so. He did 300. Yeah. He did Watchmen, which is Alan Moore. He loves that darker, edgier type stuff.
Sure.
So I love BVS, and I really like Jesse Eisenberg as Luthor. And I know that's not a popular opinion, so you don't have to tell me that you distree, because I know that you disagree. Most people out there, but I was really interested to see what he was going to do.
Yeah. I mean, BVS. There were three things that I just couldn't stomach. One was some of the stuff, not everything, but some of the stuff that Jesse Eisenberg did, it just didn't ring of Lex Luthor to me. I was very disappointed in the fact that they took one of their greatest moments for Superman and just pigeonholed it into a movie and brought Doomsday in.
Yeah.
I thought that was so terrible. And then the last thing that I just couldn't stomach was Martha.
That Martha scene, right?
That Martha scene, bro. What?
See, when I watched that in the theater, though, I was like, oh, that makes sense. Their mothers have the same name. I never thought about that. And I was like, oh, that connects Batman to the humanity inherent in Superman.
Yeah.
I don't mind the Martha scene, but
it's just, I actually, the concept is great. It's just the way it was acted out.
Especially now that with all the jokes, it's like every time you see that scene now, you're just like, it's ruined.
Yeah.
It's ruined. It's like when you watch Lord of the Rings. And this was a great experience. I recently rewatched Lord of the Rings not too long ago with my lady. And we both just cracked up so hardcore in Fellowship when Sean Bean just looks up and he goes, "One does not simply walk into Mordor." It's like,
that's on every meme now.
It's a whole new spin on that, man. And then the whole "what's taters" thing, like
right,
potatoes, just cracks us up so much.
That's good stuff.
But I think they didn't need to throw in the death of Superman in there, and I didn't mind Doomsday. That was neat because it gave Wonder Woman that moment to show up.
Sure.
And that was a great moment. But I also don't think Wonder Woman was needed in there. And the Jesse Eisenberg thing, he was playing he had something really right about Luthor. First of all, he had father issues
Yeah.
and he had a problem with a god figure, right? That kind of ties into that, right?
Sure.
And that is very much part of Luthor, but they did it in a like 2016 or whatever year that movie came out. They did it in like as if it was like some young kid today dealing with those Luthor struggles, right?
Yeah.
But I like the promise at the end when you see him with the shaved head and he's just sitting there and he's doing the mother box thing and he's like ding 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 and he's like I'm like because the thing about Luthor, he's a weird character to nail because he's this corporate mogul, right? The personification with everything that can go wrong with corporate America, but he's also a mad scientist, and so you kind of have to get both of them together, and it's a hard balance to do. Most people either just go one or the other, and it seems like the more popular one is the corporate guy.
Right.
But we can't forget that he's also a mad scientist. He's not right, you know? There's something wrong there.
You know, the question that I always thought, pegged Lex Luthor, would Lex Luthor had become who he was without Superman taking the limelight from him? And so that's kind of how I've always approached Lex Luthor, is that, he wanted to be the Superman. He wanted to be the savior of the earth. He was smart enough. He was popular enough. He had all the tools to be able to do it. And this guy came and took all the limelight from him.
Yeah.
And it just pissed him off. And so I've always kind of approached it from that angle. But again, this is comic books. Interpretations come all the way across the board. I mean, Gene Hackman wasn't that dude,
I know, and everybody loves Hackman's Luthor.
Right, exactly.
And I do too, but and it's Luthor that he just cares about being the criminal mastermind and all that kind of stuff. And I love how Gene Hackman was like, I'm not going to go bald. And they're like, okay, that's fine. It's not like being bald's necessary to Lex Luthor.
No.
But it really is. And it's like, that's a great moment at the end when he pulls off the wig.
Right.
But absolutely. I also like that they played with it and they gave him a different dumb wig every time he showed up. I love that. There was a Joe Casey issue of Adventures of Superman, probably like 2004-ish, 2005 or something. And Luthor, this is while he's president, right? And so maybe it's a little bit older than that, maybe like 2001, whatever, it doesn't matter. But Luthor kind of forgets who he is for a moment, and he just goes into this default personality, and he's the Gene Hackman Lex Luthor. He goes out and he's trying to do all these crazy crimes, and he's wearing all these goofy wigs, and it's really, really, it's a nice throwback to that. I think that the best performance we've gotten cinematically of Luthor is actually, I almost hate to say it nowadays because he was my favorite actor until everything recently, but Kevin Spacey.
Yeah.
I know not a lot of people like Superman Returns, which I do, but he did a really good job as Lex in there. Of course, he was still tainted by the Hackman thing because he's still all about land.
Right, right.
But I like his. But Michael Rosenbaum on the Smallville show is probably the best Luthor live action we've ever gotten. Probably.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought Rosenbaum did a great job, but I didn't have the problem with Superman Returns as most people did. As a matter of fact, I didn't understand why most people had a problem with it. I actually really liked it, and I dug Kevin Spacey inside of that. Besides his personal life, you have to give him credit for being a great actor.
I know.
And he brought some great stuff to that character inside that movie, and I loved it. And so I'm with you on that one, buddy. Yeah,
and he wore the white suit,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I've always kind of been drawn more to the villains. I've always been a Doom and a Luthor fan. And when Luthor's fighting against Superman, I'm always kind of almost inside rooting for Luthor.
Right.
Show this guy that he's not as smart as he thinks he is, right? But in that movie, they did something that the comic hardly ever does, and it made me hate Lex Luthor when he's beating the crap out of Superman and he stabs him with that kryptonite, and he's just a super bully to him because that is the inherent thing about Superman, is that Superman from the very beginning, the number one thing was he doesn't like people that are bullies. He doesn't like people that are taking advantage of people. And when Luthor's doing that to him, I was just like, and it made me feel for Superman.
Yeah, absolutely.
And usually I'm like, hell yeah, Luthor, kick Superman's ass.
But you're right. I've always had more of an affinity for the villains. I always thought that the villains made the heroes who they were. And so as a matter of fact, I have a a friend of mine that I'm commissioning him to do some work for the Everything Comics splash page, and I'm going to do a homage cover grab, either of an Avengers cover or an X-Men cover, and it's going to have all my favorite villains on there with the Everything Comics logo on it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So I'll have Doom, I'll have Bullseye, I'll have Taskmaster, I'll have Gorilla Grodd, I'll have them all in there, man.
That's super cool. Social commentary. You're right. You're 100. I forgot. Clancy Brown is the best Lex from the animated series.
Clancy Brown was great.
Yeah.
But we were talking live action. I wasn't even thinking about animated.
Yeah, me neither. But you're right. I mean, that's like, when we talk about our favorite Batmans and everybody's like, well, but Kevin Conroy. Like,
Kevin Conroy, man.
Obviously, Kevin Conroy.
I still do not read a Batman book nowadays without hearing Kevin Conroy's voice in my head.
No, right? There you go. Chris wants to know when Luthor first appeared in the comics. He's not in the old George Reeves TV series from the 50s. No, he's not. He first appeared. It was super early issue of Action Comics. Something my gut instinct wants to say 14, but I don't know if it's 14. Do you know, Bob? I
do not know. I was never into the Superman mythos as heavily as I was into Batman. I only started getting into a lot of the Superman stuff just recently. I shouldn't say recently, but a lot of my favorite books over time didn't really deal with a lot of the stuff in the back issues.
Yeah.
And so I've just recently started getting into his mythos. So I have no frame of reference on that.
I just looked it up. It's Action Comics 23.
23,
which should be an easy number for me to remember. So 23, like Michael Jordan, right?
There you go.
But I remember when he first appeared, I remember the image clearly in my head. He's got hair, he's got red hair, and he's wearing like a robe, and he's kind of like, he's had so many evolutions. The corporate mogul thing didn't even come across until that was John Byrne, right? Pretty sure that was the first like business suit corporate Lex was like John Byrne's Lex. Before that, he's mad scientist wearing the armor, teaming up with Brainiac, right?
So you're saying that the whole LexCorp thing didn't happen until the Byrne run?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that was the first. I think that's when we got businessman Lex. I may be mistaken, but as far as I know, that's when it started. It was in the 80s because you get that version of Lex in the Ruby Spears animated series from the late 80s that came right after it. But the Byrne Superman was the first Superman I ever read. Some of the first comics I ever read. So that was like the first Lex I was introduced to, except for my superpowers figure. And I was always like, why is he not in a suit?
Right.
But I like Lex in the battle suit too. So that's why I like it when a writer takes the time to explain that, yeah, Luthor is a corporate business guy, and he's also like this crazy mad scientist guy. Right. It's kind of like when people forgot for a long time that Dr. Doom was also a sorcerer, right? And then when Mark Waid kind of brought that back, and now that's back into the forefront. So I like that. I like it when they understand that there's two sides of it.
Right. Exactly. I mean, that's always what made him hugely unique, was the fact that in a lot of the stuff that Marvel's ever done, you have people that are just drawing on one of these different power sets, and his was a melding of two different ones that usually don't mix. And I always love that.
Yeah. I've always liked the, like Batman versus the Joker, right? So Batman's the dark brooding vampire bat, which is a monster. Mm-hmm. And then you got a clown, which is usually a very positive and friendly kind of idea, but they invert them, right? For Batman and Joker. And they kind of do that with Superman and Luthor, because Superman's the alien from another world who's more powerful than us. And Lex is the pinnacle of human achievement. He's gone out there, he's lived the American dream, he's succeeded, he's built a company, and but they've inverted that. And I really like that.
Yeah. That's what's one of the things I've always enjoyed about Batman, was a lot of his villains are a juxtaposition of him if he had gone wrong. And so, I mean, if the death of his parents had caused him at such an early age to not care and to get revenge, and I mean, he would be Joker. Yeah. If you have, Two-Face is, the duality, Bruce Wayne and Batman, it's all played out inside of Two-Face, right in front of you. The Penguin is, what if the rich, being part, from a rich family the way he is? What if that corrupted him like it did Cobblepot? The Riddler, you have Batman, the greatest detective in the world, who solves, basically riddles with every crime. And here's somebody who creates that, on the other end of the spectrum. And so they were always a juxtaposition of the character. And I always loved that about his rogues gallery.
Yeah. Even Bane, Bane is a force of brilliance and brutality that just with pure physicality and cunning can dominate anything, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. They're all like that. I mean, you can look at Catwoman that way. You can Scarecrow, the way he tries to inspire fear.
Yep, exactly.
And everybody. Yeah, I love that about him. And every good villain is a reflection of the hero. Damien wants to know if Daredevil has a Joker. And then Eric answers. He goes, "Yeah, he has the Jester."
Well, I don't know. I would definitely say that Bullseye is the yin to his yang, and or also Mr. Fear. Those are the two that I would say are the opposites to Daredevil. I mean, you have Bullseye, who doesn't care about taking life. He actually enjoys it, whereas Daredevil is somebody who will not take a life. And also at the same time, you have this in close master of fighting against somebody who at long range is actually the better of the two. And so there's a juxtaposition between those two characters. And then of course, Mr. Fear, somebody who inflicts fear on somebody who has no fear. That's always been there. The Jester, I don't think has ever been played out the way he should against Daredevil. And I do believe that there's a better Jester story that'll eventually come.
The Jester is just his version of the Trickster.
Yeah.
We know that. Right? I also think the Kingpin is a good polar opposite of Daredevil.
Bringing Wilson Fisk into the fray was it changed the whole game. Yeah. And that's a whole different ball of wax when you start to unfold it. And that's also a great juxtaposition.
Yeah, you got the hero on the streets, grim and gritty, getting his hands dirty, trying to protect the people that don't get protected by everybody else. And then you got the guy on the high rise in a nice suit, eating fine dining and kind of trotting on those people to make himself rich, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good one. Miller was really spot on when he did that. Because I think Kingpin would have never been what he is without being Daredevil's main guy.
Right. I mean, yes, he was originally a Spider-Man villain, but he was definitely on the low rungs of who people wanted to see him go up against. He transformed that character and made him the perfect villain for Daredevil.
And gave us our best, in my opinion, my humble yet esteemed opinion, the best Marvel Cinematic performance from a villain, Vincent D'Onofrio as Wilson Fisk.
There's so many things about that performance that was just absolutely amazing. I still will go and pull up episode 13 of the first season when he's in the truck and he starts reciting the Bible verse about the Good Samaritan.
Yeah.
And he makes the turn right there when he starts to realize that he is the ill intent. And it's just like, oh, it was so great, man. I could pull that scene up 1,000 times and watch it. It's just so well done.
It's so good. My favorite episode of season 2 is the one where Matt goes to see him in prison and he just kicks Matt's ass. He gets him so hardcore. That was the best episode. And season 2, yeah, man, and the way that Charlie Cox played that, everybody always said nobody can take a fake punch on screen like Harrison Ford, right? He does it in Indiana Jones. He does it in Star Wars. Charlie Cox played that so perfectly. It was great.
Absolutely.
I really, really, really hope that they're smart enough to bring them into the cinematic universe now that it seems like they're about to be able to do something more with those characters.
Yeah.
The time limit's almost up, right?
There's so many rumors that are going around, and I'm not going to believe anything until I see it actually verified in Variety or somebody that has some chops in the game. But I mean, they have mentioned the fact that he's going to make an appearance in Spider-Man 3 as Peter Parker's lawyer. There's been a couple of new articles that have come out in the last couple of days that talked about the fact that they are going to go forward with the Daredevil season 4, and they're bringing Wilson Bethel back, and he will reprise the role, this time fully as Bullseye. That's come out just the last couple of days. These are all things that I would love to see, but until I actually have it written in stone, I'm still waiting, buddy.
Yeah, the Daredevil season 4 thing I saw it on what was that site? We Got This Covered. So I was like, that's probably BS then.
Yeah.
But they would be absolute idiots not to bring them in. And I know that Cox would be down for it. And I'm pretty sure D'Onofrio would be down for it. So
absolutely. Yeah. D'Onofrio said that he loved playing the character. And that's both of those guys. I want to meet them, but I definitely want to meet D'Onofrio because he killed it as Wilson Fisk. Absolutely killed it.
He did. Plus he was in Men in Black, right?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
And his performance in Full Metal Jacket haunted me when I was a kid.
Man, as Pyle.
Yep.
And didn't he also get to play Thor at one point?
Yeah, in Adventures in Babysitting.
That's right.
Yeah. Which is a great movie. So if you're stuck at home, have nothing to do, watch Adventures in Babysitting.
For sure. But he has always been a great character actor. And he's got an amazing range, and I think he's very underrated. He was great as the complete psychopath in The Cell as well.
I was about to ask if you've ever seen The Cell.
Yeah, absolutely.
That movie tanked. People hated it. I love that movie.
Yeah. Visually, it was stunning, man.
Yeah, and he's so amazing. They go inside the mind of a serial killer, and he's got there's been all kinds of studies on serial killers, right? Mm-hmm. And so for people that haven't seen this movie, there's 5 different aspects of a serial killer's personality. There's the child, there's the tormentor, there's the king, and they show all of these. When they go inside, they encounter him in all these different facets.
Right.
Oh my goodness. That's that moment where he's the king and he's got that cloak that's hooked into his back.
Yeah.
And curtains on the wall, and visually stunning. Oh my goodness.
Absolutely. No, I dug that movie. It was creepy as all get out because of some of the elements that they put in it, but my gosh, but that was a crazy ride.
Yeah, that's so good. I really like that. I think he's the best Marvel villain we've had on screen, and I mean, we got Fassbender and Ian McKellen as Magneto, and that's awesome. And we got Hiddleston as Loki, which is awesome.
And don't forget Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger, bro.
Yeah, I was about to be Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger. Those are and then Josh Brolin as Thanos.
Oh,
I think we got the top 5 right there.
For sure. That's a quick top 5. Boom.
Yeah, that's the easy one too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, really, who's going to compete with that?
No, man. And
I like Hugo Weaving's performance as the Red Skull, I guess, decently, but he was just kind of an asshole. He wasn't really Red Skull, No,
and he didn't really get a chance to shine as Red Skull very much. I mean, he didn't pretty much take the mask off until the end, and they didn't really get to show just how diabolical he was. They just showed how mean he was, basically.
Yeah. They wasted Malekith, I think.
Oh, he was a huge waste.
And they got a great casting for that. Chris Eccleston, that would have been amazing, but it just didn't work. And Iron Man doesn't really have any proper villains in his movies. Let's be honest.
I'm still mad about Iron Man 3. I don't care. I mean, I can watch it all. I can still laugh about Trevor, but I was so pissed when I walked in and realized I got duped and I wasn't going to see Mantis, man.
Yeah, or Mandarin. Yeah, absolutely.
Or Mandarin. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Ronan's a good one. I like Ronan. He was threatening. He was scary.
I liked him. I liked him in the first Guardians of the Galaxy. I didn't think that he really worked in the Captain Marvel movie.
Yeah, he was just kind of there.
Exactly. I didn't understand why they needed to have that tie-in. I guess it's okay, but
you're right. We forgot one.
We forgot Vulture.
We got to redo the top 5 now.
For sure.
Yeah, got to redo the top 5. Yep, there you go.
Yeah.
You're right. Keaton as Vulture that's one of his best performances. It was so scary, so threatening.
That scene inside of the car when he figures out that it's Peter, man, that was so well done. It was that's great stuff. I love Michael Keaton.
Yeah, Michael Keaton's great, and he's got great eyebrows.
Yeah, he does.
As my
start the petition and get them to do a Batman Beyond with him reprising the role as Bruce Wayne. That's my hope and dream.
That would be really cool. I think that would be a great one. I think that would be
action Batman Beyond.
Take it easy, Damien.
See you
on the replay.
Absolutely.
At least Damien lets us know when he leaves. Bueller's just like, never mind.
See you guys.
I'm just going to say hey and dip out.
Usually he'll sit in the background. I won't even know he's there until he rears his head and he's like,
he might be doing it right now. We just start talking a lot of smack about Bueller. Let's do it. What's up with those vests?
I know.
I'm just kidding. I like the vest. I like it a lot. He was telling me that, he's got the vest and the glasses and I got the backwards hat and you felt like you needed something. So you got the Bullseye hat.
I didn't feel like I needed anything, to tell you the truth. It was his grandma, I think, that it was telling him that, you've got this thing going on, but Bob needs something. And so he was saying, you should get a hat. So I'm like, okay, I'll try a hat. And so I got, the Irish Rider hat. And then my wife, she put the Bullseye symbol on it. And I'm rocking it for a while. I'm still not sold on it, but we'll see what happens.
Oh, I love it. I think it's great. It's great. You look like Joe Pesci's uncle from Goodfellas or something.
There we go. The bookie uncle, huh?
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. It fits your personality. Not everybody can rock that.
Come on. So speaking about bookie uncles or bookies, period, I got a little story for you.
Okay.
Because the other day you asked me if I was a Power Rangers fan. And the answer to that question is yes, I am. I got into all this science fiction and fantasy stuff when I was a little kid. Before I got into comic books, what I had was all of these great kaiju movies and TV shows. And of course, I started with Godzilla, Monster Island, all those when I was growing up. And but my favorite thing when I got out of school was I'd run home because on Channel 52 UHF in California, back to back, I'd see Ultraman and Johnny Sacco and his flying robot.
Oh, Johnny Sacco.
Yeah.
I think that's the first giant robot in a Japanese TV series. It became known as tokusatsu or whatever, right?
Right.
It's like Japanese superheroes or something. I think that was like the first, that first one, man. That show's so cheesy. It's so awesome though, man.
I have every single episode on DVD, man. I bought them bootleg. And I still go back and watch them because it brings back all those memories from when I was a kid. But I had a really good friend when I was growing up who his mom was Japanese and they used to go to Hawaii all the time. And in Hawaii, you could buy all those cool action figures that you couldn't get in the States. So they had Ultraman, they had Ultra 7, they had, Kamen Rider, they had, Kakitsu Lion Maru, and they had all these stuff that I would, see on these obscure UHF channels. And so I'd be, filtering out money to him every time he go to Hawaii to get me these action figures, man. And so that's kind of what started my love for science fiction stuff. And so cut to the 90s. And I mean, it's no secret. When I was younger, I used to be into some pretty shady stuff. And I used to be a collector for one of the largest bookmaking outfits on the West Coast. And this is about the time that my first son was born. And so cut to when he's about 3.5, Power Rangers comes on and he freaking goes nuts over it. Right. And so, of course, being a good dad, I'm going to sit there and watch what he watches. And this show took me back to my childhood when I was watching all of those great kaiju and Japanese superhero shows. And I got into it. I got into it full bore. And that first Christmas after they came out, I don't know if you remember this, but the craze was they sold out the toys like everywhere. You couldn't find them, right?
Yeah.
And
I was one of those crying teenagers.
Well, here's the thing. Because of the fact that one of the people that I used to collect from at the time, actually his second job was working graveyard shift at Toys R Us.
Oh, man.
And so they had a line that was like 5 miles long to get into Toys R Us. And the thing was, when you walked in, you could buy one Ranger, you could buy one Zord, and then one specialty, like a vehicle, right? And that was all you could buy. Dude, he let me in at 2:00 in the morning. I took everything, bro.
Oh, dude. Best dad ever.
Yeah, man. So here's this, 3.5. He actually was 4 at the time. He was this 4-year-old. He comes down, and I had stood up all night building everything. So he came down to every single Zord, every single Power Ranger on a motorcycle, and he freaking went sensory overload for this amazing Power Rangers Christmas.
That's the best thing ever. I got that when in season 2. I got that for Christmas. They had gotten me all the Zords, but at that point they were producing more of them.
Sure.
In those early days, all I was able to get was a Dragon Zord, but I was just holding on to it. I just loved it. I remember being a kid and being like, one day I'll be old enough and I'll buy any Power Ranger toy I want, no matter what anybody says. Well, guess what, Robbie? That day is here. It happened.
There you go. So I've always been a fan. After the original show came out, there were a few more that were on that I got into for a little while, and then it just became too crazy. I couldn't keep up with it. And but one of the things that I didn't get into until just recently were the comic books. I didn't think that they were producing, or I don't know, inside of my mind that they could ever come close to doing anything good with it.
Yeah.
And I started picking them up, and they're actually really freaking good.
Yeah, they're really good.
Yeah.
They're some of the best superhero comics out right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to agree. And so yeah, man. I mean, I'm a huge Power Rangers fan.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Good to hear.
There's definitely some stuff I need to go back and get now that I know how good it is.
Yeah, the new comics, ever since Boom started doing it, they're better than the show, because the show never cared about characterization or anything like that. It was cheesy. It was, it's made for kids, right?
Yeah.
But that show was made for 30, 40-year-olds who watched Power Rangers back in the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, loved it. And so I kind of probably got out of Power Rangers around the same time you did, because after Mighty Morphin, they did Zeo, and it was Turbo. Turbo, I was like, this isn't. And when Jason David Frank, Tommy, when he left, I was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done. And then I got back into Power Rangers with Power Rangers Samurai. That was the first one that was done in HD. And one day I was just like, it was on Netflix, and I was like, yeah, let's watch it. And I got hooked right back into Power Rangers. And I went and I bought all the Samurai toys. So I got the giant Samurai Gigazord right over there. And I got back into Power Rangers, but then I was like, I'm tired of waiting for the next season of Power Rangers. Let me get into the original Japanese show, Super Sentai.
Right.
Once I started watching that, I don't even know. I still like Power Rangers, but I never watch it anymore. I watch Super Sentai.
Yeah.
That show is so good.
It was amazing.
All that stuff that you love, the Kamen Rider, the Ultraman. I love also Metal Heroes. And and what else is there? Oh man, what's the one I love so much? Space Sheriff Gavin.
I've never seen that one.
Oh man, I love that. I first got introduced to him because he crossed over with some Sentai episodes or whatever. But Super Sentai is my jam now, and I stopped buying the American Power Ranger Zords, and I started buying the Japanese ones, because when Disney bought Power Rangers, they made the toys super cheap, right? They used to just do a carbon copy. So like those ones from back in the day that you bought, those were the Japanese toys, just basically redone and sold here. When Disney got a hold of it, they started making them cheaper. They were all plasticky, and they're really bad. Really, really bad. The current season right now that's going on is Beast Morphers. And it's based on Go Busters, which came out several years ago. And I got super into Go Busters, and I bought all the Zords I could from Japan. And the difference is striking between the new ones. They're so doofy, right? But the Buster O over there is like intricate, detailed. They do it's everything. It's amazing. Yeah,
that's awesome. That's awesome.
I was showing this off the other day, so I'll show it to you then, since you like Power Rangers. But that's
come on, man.
That's an incentive I got for Power Rangers number 8.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, they did a whole line. They did each individual Zord, then they did the Megazord, and so
yeah.
I was lucky enough to be able to get that because I work at a comic shop, so I was like, that one's mine.
I was just noticing in the chat, Eric said, "Sorry, can't read comics about high school kids. I'm 63." And I'll just have to say, check them out, because I don't think it's what you think it is. They're actually really well done.
They're very well done. It's so crazy.
Did you
People
ever
don't believe you?
Right, exactly. Did you ever get to see the fan-made film? You can still see it on YouTube. That had Katie Sackhoff and gosh, what's the guy's name? Anyway, there was a fan film that was based on the Power Rangers. That's pretty amazing.
You talking about the one where like it's like dystopian and dark, and all that kind of stuff? Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I dug that. I thought that would be a really cool take if they went that direction with it.
See, I didn't like it because I was such a purist, and I watched it and I was like, Rocky would never betray the Rangers. What's wrong with him? Jason would, but not Rocky. Not Rocky.
Not Rocky. Yeah. I liked how dark it was and how adult it was, and just how they portrayed the Zord Wars. I thought that was really cool.
That's what I like about the comic book so much, is that it takes the goofiness of the kid show, but it makes it a little bit more serious, a little bit more high stakes, right? Yeah. And that's why I love Super Sentai, because like here in America, Power Rangers is a show for kids. Right. Pretty young kids, right? Yeah, I was getting into Power Rangers when I was like 13 years old. And when I met Austin St. John, who was the original Red Ranger, he was like, how old were you when you watched Power Rangers? And I was like, I was embarrassed. I was like, I was 13. I was probably way too old. And he was like, no, man, you were the right age. Come on, man. I'm like, yeah, thanks for making me feel good. You're so awkward, right? But I always have awkward moments when I meet Power Rangers. I almost do. And when I first met Jason David Frank, I could not get a word out. The guy who played the original Green Ranger. Right. I could not get a word out. My buddy John still just rails me today about that. He's just like, yeah, when you met JDF, you couldn't actually get any words out. I was like, I know. It was going to be at the Expo this year. And then, COVID-19. So it's been pushed back and he can't make the July date. But he is going to be here next year. So there you go. I'll get another chance. So I totally man crushed out on him. I was like, this is the dude I was like, I don't know. When I was a kid, I was like, I just started dressing all in green and white, and I tried to learn karate. Well, I mean, the buildup that they gave for him inside of the show, I mean, he immediately became everybody's favorite. Everybody wanted to be the Green Ranger, and then of course the White Ranger after. But so much fun. So much fun. He shows by the way, guys, in the chat, I'm 53. Just letting you guys know. 53. 53. Well, we got to get you off the channel. What the hell? I'm just joking. I'm approaching 40. I'll be 39 in a month, though. A month to the day tomorrow. So awesome. Yep, very exciting. I'm going to be 39. 39, and then from that point forward, that's the age you'll be every year. Yeah, well, I started that at 32. I don't want to hit 33. I have a superstition about the number 33. I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to deal with it. Yeah, James Van Der Beek was Rocky in there, and Rocky would never betray the Rangers like that. I would agree, but it was still a good fan-made film. But yeah, the comics do a great job of, just like the Super Sentai, like Power Rangers is made for kids here. Super Sentai is made for everybody. Right. A lot of people watch Super Sentai and Kamen Rider in Japan, and it's a different show. They're higher stakes. People will get hurt. There's real situations sometimes. It's also really cheesy and goofy, like all that Japanese giant robot stuff is, right? Right, exactly. There's some stuff that gets lost in translation, But like in the original one, Zyuranger is the one that Mighty Morphin's based on, right? Mm-hmm. And in that one, the Green Ranger and the Red Ranger are brothers, and the Green Ranger actually dies. I remember that. And he gives his power to the Red Ranger, and that's why he has the shield, right? But in America, they just kept it going, and they gave him his powers back, and then they turned him into the White Ranger, which was actually from Die Ranger, which was a completely different show. In Die Ranger, the White Ranger, the original one, is like a 13-year-old kid on a skateboard. Right. Which is so weird. But yeah, they actually killed the Green Ranger. Right. And when I watched that for the first time, I was like, when's he coming back? Well, I mean, you have to hand it to them, though. I mean, they took that series and butchered it in such a way that they could repropagate it for an American audience.
and it took off like wildfire. I mean, it's probably one of the more genius moves anybody's ever done with media like that.
Saban has made so much money off Power Rangers. So he buys the rights to it. And what's crazy is that initially Stan Lee and one of his partners approached Fox with the idea to do a show based on Super Sentai where they would use the footage, right? And then they were like, no, this is silly. Saban did it, sold it to Fox. Fox made it a smash hit. It was popular. So Saban sells it to Disney, right? Gets a lot of money for that. Disney tanks the franchise. So years later, it's worth nothing, right? Nobody wants to buy it from Disney. Who buys it at a discount rate? Saban. So he buys the rights back from Disney, makes it a big thing again, and then sells it to Hasbro recently for tons of money. This dude has made so much money off this Super Sentai show.
That's crazy.
It's so crazy. There's on Netflix, there's that show Toys That Made Us. Have you ever seen that one?
Oh yeah, I love that show.
There's a Power Rangers episode, and they go into all of that, and it's just, dude's got to be he's a real life Lex Luthor.
There you go. I see we got some John Schnepp fans inside of the chat.
I see my buddy Robbie in here, by the way. I just got to give a shout out to Robbie.
Hey, Robbie.
Because us Robbies got to stick together. He says, the worst thing during this pandemic, I miss seeing all my friends at my local comic shop, miss seeing you, Rockin Robbie, and talking comics. Good to see you here. Hope is all is well. Robbie, you can still have that feeling every live stream, right? And you can always text me, homie. Robbie's one of my customers and a good buddy of mine. Me and him went to Heroes Con last year.
Nice.
He paid for the hotel and drove us up there. And because of him, I got to go meet a lot of incredible people and have a great time in North Carolina. And Robbie's just one of my favorite people ever.
That's awesome.
And he's a big fan of yours, Bob. Just so you know.
Robbie. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for being here.
Indeed. And we miss you too, Robbie.
I was noticing people in the chat talking about getting sweaty, so I know we got some John Schnepp fans out there. And he was one of my favorite dudes.
Who? What are we talking about?
John Schnepp. You never heard of John Schnepp?
That name sounds familiar.
Did you ever watch or listen to Collider Heroes?
No.
So Collider, you know who Collider is, right? I mean, they do YouTube shows, podcasts. They had a segment called Collider Heroes, and they would go over comic book entertainment news all the time. And John Schnepp is actually the guy that created what was the heavy metal show that was on? I'm so bad with names tonight; it's not even funny. Metalocalypse. He's the guy that created Metalocalypse.
Okay.
And he was a huge comic book aficionado. And when he would talk about, stuff that like we're getting into tonight, he would say, we're getting sweaty. Right. And that was his term for geeking out. And so I just noticed a bunch of guys inside of the chat here were talking about we're getting sweaty. So that was pretty cool.
I see.
But he ended up passing away last year. It was pretty sad. I think he worked himself to the bone and went to a con and came back and caught pneumonia, I think.
Ooh.
And he ended up passing away. It was a tragedy, but he's definitely somebody who's missed in the comic book community.
Okay. Yeah. Somebody just died today.
What?
It was somebody that did work on Mad Magazine. I can't remember who that was. I'll find out.
Yeah, find out.
Sure. Let's see. Mort Drucker.
That name sounds familiar.
He did the artwork on the American Graffiti cover, for instance, the poster.
Okay.
Let's see if I can. Mort Drucker.
That's right. Somebody just mentioned in the chat that John Schnepp was the guy that directed The Death of Superman Lives. That was the documentary about the Superman movie that was never made.
Yes, I've never seen that, but I really want to.
Yeah, it's an amazing watch.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen real quick. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. So this is his work. I saw Francisco Francavilla share some of his stuff. He did a look at that, right?
Oh, yeah.
So Francisco Francavilla had shared an image that he had done of the Universal monsters.
Mm-hmm.
So I bet I can find that. Where is it? Yeah, right there. Look at that.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, but he passed away today at 91. So
wow.
We've lost another one again. So
yeah. Well, he had a great run. 91, man. That's awesome.
Maybe he was like, I see what's going on. I'm going to get out of here right now.
there are a bunch of people who are thinking that, man. I'll tell you.
Yeah, man. People are, I was thinking the other day, I was like, Dan DiDio got fired from DC right before all this happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
I bet he was like, okay, y'all deal with this. Because everybody was like, what's DC going to do?
Right.
And, Dan would have been speaking probably the very next day. That's the kind of person Dan is, you know? And that's something I am going to miss from DC is we would have had like somebody talking to us. Because right now it's like you're hearing, I saw this thing where Todd McFarlane, it was a Bleeding Cool article, and they were talking about what Todd McFarlane said he would do in response to all of this.
I saw that article. I haven't read it yet.
One of the things he says is that he thinks it's a problem that there's not one unified voice from the publishing industry. You're hearing different things from different publishers and this and that. And he was like, and he also said, Diamond may have made the right decision for sure, like halting, the releases. However, it shows you the problem when one person, Steve Geppi or whatever, right? One person could hold your industry hostage like this.
Right.
Not saying that that's what's going on. There's nothing nefarious going on. Obviously, this is all about safety.
But that's the problem with a monopoly.
Yeah.
Right. And
so one of the things we were talking about on Sunday night was how do you deal with this, Bob? What do you think?
Well, I definitely think that, this is what I was saying on Damien's channel when he was talking about distribution the other day, is that I think that we've all known that this has needed to evolve for a long time. You've had Diamond in sole control for so long, and not in a bad way. It just nobody had the desire to distribute, so nobody was challenging them, nobody was going up against them, and now we're in a place where, because of the fact that they're the sole distributor, whatever they say goes, and that's why it feels like the industry is being held hostage by it. Going forward, though, this is going to evolve, whether we like it or not. Now, I don't think that it's going to fly. That there's not going to be any distribution until June. I think you're going to start finding publishing companies are going to want to distribute, whether you have Diamond involved or not. I think Damien brought up a good point in his video. He was saying that, it would be great if everybody held back until we could get and take care of the LCSs so that it's all rolling at the same time. Well, that just goes back to the way that it was. It's actually kind of selfish to think that I'm not going to run my business because somebody else's business is not going to benefit from it, or that I can't work with them.
Yeah.
This will create, I think, avenues, whether we like it or not. It's going to evolve, and I'm afraid that it's going to evolve in ways that we don't want it to, but it's also going to finally break open into something new. I don't think we can afford to have Diamond as the sole distributor anymore. Now, how they do this going forward is of great concern for me. I know it's got to be of great concern for you, working in an LCS, because there's a lot of different ways that they could go that could cut the LCS out. And that's what we don't want to see.
Yeah.
And so, as far as what I think that the individual publishers should give the LCSs codes with which their customer base can buy comics through them digitally, and then afterwards be able to pick those up from. I'm not talking about the model that other company did, but I think the individual
Comic Hub.
Exactly. I think the publishers could do that on their own with the market and provide a code so that when all this is over with, they can still get their books. But going forward, they'd have the ability to, through their LCS, still buy those digital comics if that's the way you wanted to go.
Yeah, I like that idea too. And I don't think that, I know a lot of people think that there's this battle between digital and physical, and the LCSs are caught in the middle of it. And I think a big part of that was the very negative reaction that the retailers had towards Comic Hub and their idea.
Right.
And And some people have said that that's very short-sighted and it's not very innovative, and you're just thinking about the normal. And then people like Bueller were putting like, but what would stop Comic Hub from eventually one day cutting out the comic shops and be like, well, we'll sell you the comic. And that's why I think the better thing to do is like what you said, let every comic shop be able to have that digital storefront, you know?
Exactly.
And be able to tie in. What's the difference between going online, buying a comic book, you have it digitally right there, and then you got it in your box at your shop.
Absolutely.
It cuts out, first of all, on this, if people that all the time, one of the biggest money dumps in the comic book industry as far as retailers go are people that sign up for books and never pick them up.
Right.
That would kind of cut a lot of that out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say this person never showed up to pick up their book. Oh, well, you know, the money's there already. But then you got to have a middleman, and not every comic book, you know, shop's going to be able to run their own digital storefront, this and that. But I mean, this is the way of the free market, you know, is like when innovations happen, you jump on or you get off. Right?
Exactly right.
And I also think that the digital readership is way different than the physical readership. And then there's crossover.
Sure.
And the crossover people, like what Damien said in his video, was I would have continued if DC or Marvel would have continued releasing digital stuff as of right now, if they kept putting it out, I probably would have bought the stuff I was really interested in, but I would still go back and buy it once it came out.
Right.
My problem with that was, let's say this goes for 2 months. Let's say we don't get physical comics back in shops until June.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say they were releasing 2 months of digital copies beforehand. What happens now? Struggling shops coming in, all of a sudden got 2 months of books dumped on them all at once.
Yeah.
So I think that's why a lot of people kind of put a hold on it. But I don't think there's such a battle between digital and physical. And I think there are plenty of people that do both. Yeah. Like I'm reading Spawn right now, and I got the first 20 issues physically. And then I'm like, I'm not going to buy 300 issues of Spawn.
Right.
So I've been getting them digitally, you know,
Sure.
It's a little bit cheaper. They don't ever go out of print, you know?
Right.
And I like trade paperbacks. So if I go through all 300 something issues of Spawn and come out the other end of it, loving it, mm-hmm. I'm going to get those giant hardcover deluxe editions or something like Jim Mint has. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm going to get a physical copy of everything that I have to have.
For sure. You know, well, and my thing is that because of the fact that I buy so many new comic books when New Comic Book Day comes out, you know, I don't have the room to be able to keep doing that for very long. And I got to start cycling books out. And what I'd rather do is I'd rather get them digitally and just buy the ones that I really like afterwards. Yeah. And but at the same time, I'm a purist. I don't want the LCS getting cut out of that. And so that's why I don't do that. And so I really hope that they go to a model to where we can buy directly from the LCS or digital copies. The publishers get their money, the LCSs get their money, and I get the physical copies that I want when I'm done.
Yeah, I think the best way to alleviate the fears of the digital market is to allow the retailers allow it to be easier for them to access that.
For sure.
I think that's a great idea. Plus, the other thing is the biggest digital thing right now is Comixology, mm-hmm. which is owned by one of the richest dudes in the world. So, like, who do we really want to support, you know? Bezos or LCSs, and always LCSs.
Yeah,
but I do have a Comixology Unlimited subscription. I mean,
right.
It's basically nothing. And, like, I mean, you find weird stuff on there. Like, I realized all Hellraiser comics ever are available to read right now on Comixology Unlimited. And I'm like, what? Including all the ones that Marvel did back in the 80s, right?
Really?
Yes, all of them. You can just go in there and look at collections, and there's like Hellraiser masterpieces or Hellraiser classics, and that's all the old epic stuff from back in the day. And like Rising Stars is available complete, like right now.
Interesting.
So anybody that read The Resistance that has heard about Rising Stars, you can read it right now, and that's really cool. And then they do their Comixology originals, and I've actually just been diving into them lately because there are no physical copies, and I'm trying to keep up with a weekly comic book review. Mm-hmm. I told somebody, I had a comment, and somebody was like, if they're releasing comics digitally, why would you not do the weekly comic book review? And I was like, man, some of my audience may not be the physical comic. You know, some of these people may read digitally, and I think that's cool. So I think it's good that Marvel and DC has halted for now. I think that's the right move to make.
Yeah.
I think that May is when we're going to start seeing things. If Diamond's not ready in May, I guarantee you DC and Marvel are going to start like direct shipping or doing something.
Yeah, and I'm already starting to hear of the smaller publishing companies needing to move forward in some way because they can't last as long as some of the bigger companies can.
Yeah,
and I get that. I
hear that IDW is struggling, for instance, right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't doubt it. I mean, some of these companies, they live and die off of what they publish every week, and they've been completely halted. They're not backed up by larger companies like like the big two are, and so they don't have the capital to be able to keep running. And a lot of their artists, I mean, they're getting paid by what they do, and they're not doing anything if they're not putting anything out. I mean, and
yeah.
I sure hope we don't hear any crap about deadlines after this because they've got plenty of time to catch up.
Well, a lot of people have been argued pencils down. So,
oh, really?
If Valiant told all their people, like pretty much as soon as this stuff broke in mid-March, like Valiant told everybody pencils down. IDW has now halted production on TMNT and G.I. Joe and maybe a few others. Marvel has halted production on like 20% of their line.
Yeah, I read that.
But most of that's probably tie-ins to movies. They're like, whoa, we don't need you to work on that Eternals book right now.
Right. Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the big crossover event as well, because a lot of that, had been fleshed out, but not all of it has been written yet. They're still writing on the backside. So I think they put that all on the back burner, the whole Empire.
Oh, yeah. This messes up their timetables and how they like to. They put all these big events out at certain points of the year for very specific reasons, usually because it's the height of the market for the year or it's a low point. That's why you saw Absolute Carnage come out in August, September, and October, because usually those are the lowest selling months for comic book retail. So they started putting more stuff out there, and it's going to throw their whole thing off now because they're going to be a month or two behind. And that's just the way it is. And I think that's the best way to do. It's just be like, let's pause for a month. And then hopefully in May, we're ready to go. And if we're not ready to go in May, then it's a week-to-week thing. But, I mean, we're shot for April. We're not getting new comics in April.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I'm going nuts, Robbie.
Well, they are still releasing some comics, but not, not the big ones that we're all into. And last week I did a weekly comic book review. And I read like a handful of digital ones, and I did it again this week. And so, surprise, as soon as this video is over, the weekly comic book review is coming.
There we go.
A day late and $1 short, but it's coming.
Cool. Cool.
So I checked out some of the digital releases, and it's what I've found in the last 2 weeks is it's given me a chance to check out books that I never would have. Stuff from Action Lab, stuff from publishers I have never even heard of before.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it gets me to read some stuff I never would have read before.
Yeah.
But it also gets me to read some major crap.
Well, I'm catching up on a lot of stuff because I missed out on so much when I was away from comics. I actually started the Hickman Fantastic Four run at your suggestion.
I'm so proud of you.
Started with issue 571, and man, right out the get-go, where he's got basically Reed going to a different part of the universe where all these Reeds from all these different Earths are coming together.
The Council of Reeds.
The Council of Reeds, and that
becomes a big deal, believe it or not.
Fantastic. And then Doom being in all those versions of Doom being in the hole.
Yep.
And I mean, that was all. I mean, I know he's setting up a lot of great stuff with that, but I wanted to ask you. So somewhere along the lines in his run, he started a second Fantastic Four run. It's just called FF.
Yeah.
What's the deal with that?
So do you know about the death of a member of the Fantastic Four during his run?
No.
There's a death
mm-hmm.
of a member of the Fantastic Four. Obviously, they got better.
At
a certain point, somebody dies.
Okay.
And it ends Fantastic Four. And then he starts FF, which is Future Foundation. And that's an idea that gets set up in his very first issue because he's talking about how we need bigger and brighter and bolder ideas for the future, right?
Right.
And he's talking about setting up the Future Foundation. So when somebody dies, I don't want to spoil it since you don't know. But when somebody dies, it stops being Fantastic Four and it starts being FF. And so FF goes for a while. And then when someone returns, both books go along.
I was noticing that today. So that's why I wanted to ask about it. So I definitely have to read both is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay. All right, cool.
Definitely. And at the point when it splits, you kind of have to, you can read them on their own. They all work on their own, but they do work also if you just kind of read them in the order that they were released. So I'm sure we can find a good reading order online that's been printed out, and and that's a great way to do it. And then that gets you to the end of his run.
Okay.
And really great stuff.
That, I have to hit the Avengers before I get to the Secret War.
Yes. Avengers and New Avengers.
Right.
Another time where he did 2 books that work together. But and that leads directly up into Secret Wars.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I'm on board. So I mean, I got to get caught up in my Doom knowledge, man.
And even if you wanted to, you can look and see if this is available, easy to get. But he did a run before Fantastic Four called Secret Warriors. It was a Nick Fury book. That's kind of important too.
Okay.
And the whole idea in Winter Soldier where Hydra had infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. this whole time.
Yeah.
That's a Hickman idea.
Is it really?
Well, it's probably somebody else's idea before that, to be honest with you. But Hickman does that in Secret Warriors. Fury finds out that he's been working for Hydra the whole time, basically.
That's funny. I thought that was a Brubaker idea, so I'm learning something new.
There you go. Thank you, Rylan. What Hickman conversation? What are we talking about? I saw some people talking about Hickman. I love Hickman.
Yeah. It's hard for me. I know you're a huge Fantastic Four fan, and there's some Fantastic Four runs that are just hard for me to get into because
there's some Daredevil runs hard for me to get into.
Yeah. But I mean, I was such a purist with the Lee and Kirby stuff, and there were some things that people did afterwards that it wasn't my characters, and then I just got to tell you when I found out that Alicia ended up with Johnny Storm, that pissed me off, man.
I dig it. When I was first reading Fantastic Four, that was already happening. So my first introduction to Alicia was as Johnny's future wife, because they got married in issue 300, and I first started reading Fantastic Four just a few issues before that. So I was like, "Oh, that's neat." And you look at it now, and you're like, "That's very soap opera-y."
Yeah.
But like it was what it was, and so I was cool that way. So then when cut to a few years later, when I read the issue where turns out she's a Skrull, that blew my mind, man. I was like, what? You got to be kidding me.
It's still soap opera, but just a whole different way, man.
And then, to be honest, Lyja became one of my favorite Fantastic Four characters for a long time because she kind of fell in love with Johnny. She was there to be a spy. She falls in love with him, and I know that she's going to be featured in this Empire event.
Oh, will she?
Because it's going to be very Fantastic Four and Avengers centric. But they're bringing her back into it, which is cool to me because I like the 90s stuff, even though it's not necessarily the best, just because that's when I was like really like avidly reading was the late 80s and into the 90s.
Sure.
So I love all that stuff. I hated Sue when she got that Psylocke type costume.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I didn't have a problem with it, but as an adult, I was like, yeah, that's kind of out of character. But then they made sense with it, with the aspect of malice and this and that. I don't know. It gets a little convoluted. Then they kill Reed and Doom, and then Kristoff becomes Doom, and he joins the Fantastic Four, and Scott Lang becomes a member.
Crazy.
Those are good, crazy times that are pretty silly.
But I'll tell you what, just hopping into, Hickman, the beginning of Hickman's run, very easy to hop into. A lot of great concepts being, built right from the very beginning, and I'm on board with it. I'm digging it. Yeah,
it's a great run. He really understands those characters, and even when from that you go into Avengers and New Avengers, and you go into Secret Wars, but all of it really can be a Reed and Doom story. When it all comes down to it, it's a Reed and Doom story.
Absolutely.
And, that's what the end of Secret Wars is it's Reed and Doom. And that is, story-wise, in continuity, in universe, not necessarily like fans' reaction or experience over the decades, but in story, the Luthor and Superman, like that aspect right there. Like the main gist of DC villains and DC heroes coming against each other. In the Marvel universe, that's Reed and Victor.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would totally agree with that.
Yeah.
And so
it's nice because Hickman writes Reed very well as well. Mm. And the whole Council of Reed's idea is just really cool. And it's so cool that even Rick and Morty ripped it off.
Did they really?
Yeah, they get the Council of Ricks, basically.
Oh, no way.
Yep, a bunch of Ricks that get together from the multiverse. It's wild, crazy stuff.
It sure is. I mean, when I got to the part where the Celestials broke in, man, I was like, okay, I'm on board here.
Yeah, right?
I'm in for a ride here.
We also write some really badass Ronin moments, too.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah, and it kind of made me really become a fan of Ronin in that run. And he does some interesting things with the Inhumans. Have you gotten to the parts with the Inhumans having different seeds throughout? Okay.
No,
there's more than one. There's more than one faction of Inhumans, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Throughout the universe, because the Inhumans were seeded by the Kree, right?
Right.
Well, Earth's not the only place they went.
Aha. Yeah. Interesting.
Hey, Chaos and Comics is in here, and if you like Hickman, read East to West. East of West. East of West is. Have you read that, Bob?
Another one on my list.
It's so good.
That's one that I didn't. I was dumb and didn't hop on it when it first came out.
Yeah, I know that you're active in your church, and you're probably a biblical scholar in your own right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure you've done some study on the Book of Revelation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, me too. Back in the day, that was like, I loved that until I really started studying it. Then I was like, this is weird and scary. But Jonathan Hickman's East of West is basically an interpretation of the Book of Revelation.
Oh, interesting.
In a pre-apocalyptic sci-fi dystopian Western type setting.
Interesting. I definitely got to check that out.
It's really cool. And if you know the Book of Revelation, you can start picking out who the witnesses are and who Babylon is. It's all there. And it's really interesting. Really cool.
Nice.
Really cool.
I've heard a lot of great things about it. And, there was a couple of books that I didn't hop on, when I should have, and I didn't, and I regretted it. And I'm playing some catch up now.
Yeah, it's his best. I think it's his best work.
That's
that
awesome.
And Pax Romana, which is just 4 issues.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. Just amazing. And there's actually a Hickman humble bundle right now where you can, for a really low price, get a crap ton of Hickman digital comics. Pretty much just for I don't even know the numbers, but there's different levels. But for a very cheap price, you can basically get all of his independent work digitally. And it's definitely something to check out. If you're a member of the PCP Army, I posted that up earlier today. So
is that on Comixology?
No, it's a Humble Bumble thing, which is cool because when you get that, you can download it to any device you want. You don't have to just get into the Comixology app or whatever like that. So that's the cool thing.
Yeah, I ended up getting a Fire HD tablet and ended up breaking it so that I can get the Marvel Unlimited app on it. And I'm
see, that's the one. I don't have Marvel Unlimited because it's not available yet. So you got to teach me how to do that.
Yeah, it's really easy. I'll send you the link on how to do it because basically, the Fire HD is based upon the whole Google app in the background.
Yeah.
And so basically, once you break it, you have this icon that basically you can have any of the Google apps on there or Android apps. And so basically that, and it's really simple. It takes about maybe 10 minutes. And then once you're done, then you can pull Marvel Unlimited on there without a problem.
Nice. Because I've always wanted to unlock that. So that's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. I'll send you the link for that. And then, but I'm hugely surprised at how much you're getting a lot of super chats. That's awesome, guys.
It's all from one guy.
Is it? Rylan, way to go, man. Way to support.
Yeah, man, thank you. You're welcome for the Hickman recommendations. Hickman's one of my favorites. I'm going to be doing a top 5 Hickman comics video next week. So
awesome.
Be on the lookout for that.
But I've been hugely surprised at the amount of digital stuff that's out there and available, and a lot of it for either free or a cheap price. And so, great time to have a tablet.
Yeah, it is. It is. I got a tiny little Kindle, but I love it, and that's where I've been reading Spawn. So
nice.
Cool. Hey, what's up, David? David's in the building.
Hey there,
Eric.
David.
To answer your question, I do not like God is Dead. God is Dead is one of those Avatar books where it was like the inkling of an idea by Hickman that somebody else wrote and elaborated out on. So they kind of do that a lot with their stuff. So I do not like God is Dead, but I only read like the first couple issues of that. Brooks read every single one. So the next live stream I do with Brooks, be sure to be here and ask him. I think that's going to be this week. We're going to be doing our Critters movie review next week. So
nice.
well, if Critters wins, but right now it's kicking tail in the PCP Army. So, which Bob is a member of the PCP Army.
Yes, I am.
There you go. And I'm a member of the Everything Comics Army, the EC Army.
Absolutely.
Bob, I really do appreciate you being here. This was a great chat. We got to do this again super soon.
Absolutely. Any chance I get, like I was telling you before we got into the chat, man, anytime, any chance I get to hang out with you, man, I'm on board. So anytime you want to do this, let me know. And I definitely need to do this on my channel and have you come on again as well. And we'll definitely go for it. We got so many things to talk about, bro.
Oh, absolutely. We could go for hours and hours and hours, but we all got to eat.
For sure.
But we appreciate everybody for being here tonight. I have a final 5 here.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, no, I didn't attune this one to you, but I do have a final 5 I'll show off here. First of all, I just got this one today. This is Madman Atomic Comics #1.
Nice.
This is the second printing because I love this cover. Right there, Bob's looking for 5 comics. That's funny.
I am.
Yep. So I love that one. I realized the other day I was doing a live chat, and my buddy Nelson, one of the PCP Army guys, was asking me about Madman recommendations, and I realized I do not have the Image Comics run, so I started getting that now. Here's my just recently got this one, Chippendale's Rescue Rangers #1.
Nice.
Yeah, with Fat Cat right there. I've showed this off a couple times on the channel this week, but I'll do it again for you. This is one of my favorite Vault comics, Maxwell's Demons.
Oh, I've never even seen that before.
This book is so amazing. It's the first Vault comic I ever read, and I fell in love with Vault and everything they did. Dennis Camp has become one of my best Twitter friends. I love this dude's writing. He sent me this one because I was pumping up the book, and there's a little note right there.
Oh, nice.
So he's a super cool dude. And that's such a great book. I think you really like it. All the stuff we were talking about Lex and Superman today.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me, you'll like that book. It's just 5 issues. That's the whole thing, but it's really good.
Nice.
There's you like the Sentai robot stuff. There's my Shogun Warriors #1.
Nice.
From Marvel Comics. And here's one of my favorite comic books I have in my collection. Let me pull it out of the bag.
All right.
I don't know if I've shown this to you. I'm not sure. This is my Fantastic Four 236.
Oh, wow.
John Byrne issue with a Stan Lee backup story because it's the 20th anniversary issue. But why I like this so much, signed by Stan Lee and John Byrne.
That is amazing.
So that's my Stan Lee signature and my John Byrne signature, the only ones I got. I never met him. I bought it this way, but still.
Right. That's awesome, bro. Those are
no certificate of authenticity, but that's... Come on.
Come on, man. Well, my final 5 are not going to be comic books. How about that?
That's fine. I like that.
My final 5 are going to be comic book related. And since I've, in this time of being in quarantine, I've gotten back into doing coloring. Wanted to show off some of my my coloring books. I got one that's just all the Flash.
Nice.
And a lot of these I haven't done anything in, so there are a ton of just amazing pictures inside of these. Some great homage covers. Rogues Gallery. So that's the Flash. Then I got Batman Hush, and this basically is all pages from the actual Hush comic book. So you can like color it panel by panel, which I thought was amazing. Then, of course, I got the Venom.
Very cool.
You
don't have to do much work when you color Venom.
No, I know that's true. All black, right? But you can do some amazing blue shading with his costume.
Yeah.
In the midst of the black that makes it really pop.
The real coloring works in the slobber.
Yeah, there you go. And then I got the one based on Civil War, which takes a lot of images from the first Civil War book, not only just the Civil War comic, but a lot of the crossovers. There's there's a Wolverine pick that I'm going to get from there. I got tons of these books. I got Thor as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and this has a lot of the old covers inside of it. A lot of newer and older Thor images, like a lot of the Simonson stuff is inside of here.
Yeah.
And, of course, we're going against Beta Ray Bill. And so I got tons of stuff to pull from to color that I can't wait to do. I'm taking my time with it. And of course, you saw I started that Doom piece.
Dude, that Doom piece looks amazing already, dude.
Yeah, man, I can't wait to show off the finished piece. And you know, they were supposed to come out with a bunch of other of these books, and they never did. And so I've been collecting off of Pinterest. I've been collecting actually inked comic book work, and I'm going to create my own book of stuff that I want.
Oh, cool.
Like that Jim Lee Fantastic Four #5 Heroes Reborn with my favorite Doom cover.
Yeah.
I got that one in black and white. And I'm going to do a page just on that, bro. So,
oh, dude, that's cool.
Yeah, man. So that's my final 5. A little bit different.
I like that, though.
Come on.
I like that.
Robbie, thank you so much for having me on. It's been a complete blast. And I always love getting a chance to just hang out with you and talk with you. And I sure do appreciate you, man.
Well, we appreciate you, Bob. Everybody, if you haven't already, subscribe to Everything Comics. There's a link in the description below as we speak. And after the stream goes off, get ready. Weekly comic book review 4/8/2020 is coming.
Yes.
It's only a 10-minute long video, but there wasn't a lot, but I'll let you know which ones were good. But Bob, thank you once again for being here. Everybody check out Everything Comics, and we'll be back very soon with the weekly comic book review and more content here on PCP. Everybody stay safe, stay home, wash your hands, don't touch your face. I'm the worst. I touch my face all the time.
Yeah.
And I even trimmed my beard up, so I could wear my mask when I go to the grocery store.
Right.
Anyway. Oh, David, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you very much, David.
David is like head general of the PCP Army.
That's awesome.
He's been down since day one. He's such a great guy. Anyway, thank you guys so much for rocking with us. We're out. Keep on reading.
Take care, buddy. Take care, everybody.